Actor and comedian Jim Carrey once said, "You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance at doing what you love." Being a creator is tough. Being an entrepreneur is tough. Starting anything from the ground up is tough. We often find ourselves overwhelmed by the what ifs. What if this doesn't make enough money? What if this doesn't get the traction I hope for? What if these people see me differently if I did this? As important as analyzing the obstacles and weighing the cons can be, the question you always have to ask yourself through all that noise is, what if this works? You may not hear it in my music per se, but I am a big Bee Gees fan. I remember this interview I saw with Barry Gibb on CBS. He said, "I remember saying to one of my first girlfriends at 14 years old that if she dumped me, she was making a mistake because I was going to be famous." I actually said that, I believed it. Yeah, and I don't know why. Barry Gibb went on to be one of the greatest songwriters and performers of the past 50 years or so. That little anecdote is not one of arrogance or having too much pride, but simply one of hope and belief. You see, I always say this about myself. I know I'm going to get where I want because I know who I am, I know how stubborn I can be, and how relentless I am towards my dreams. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I trust the journey. And boy, didn't 2020 throw a curve in everyone's journeys. I'm not going to sit here and say that everything happens for a reason because the amount of suffering and hardship presented by the pandemic is far too great. Any reason for any of that is far beyond us as humans to understand. However, I will paraphrase the words of the Great Awakening author Charles R. Swindoll and say, "I'm convinced that life is 10% what happens to us and 90% of how we react to it." We have to put the effort into making the best of each scenario. And the best is not always the most positive or the most successful, but rather it's what gets us to the next part of our journey, whatever that might be. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Walsh Wednesday, the Reflective Series. On this episode, we speak with an old friend of mine, Aidan Burkhard. During 2020, Aidan has launched his own marketing business and now hosts his own podcast called the Planet Creative Podcast. Besides reminiscing on the past, Aidan and I talk about in great lengths what success means to us. We get candid about our individual grinds, and I believe we offer advice and great perspectives for any of you up-and-comers, whatever your goal might be. More of that right after this. I want to say thank you to all the listeners out there. Whether you're listening to this podcast, to my album Away From Home and other releases, and simply just following along with whatever I have to offer. I mentioned this before, but this podcast is kind of like my therapy. I get to talk about subjects that mean a lot to me, and I get to share the stories of incredible people. Any and every little bit of support has been appreciated, and I love the little community that we've carved out for ourselves. Obviously, there are so many ways to support, but I suggest checking out my Patreon page and perhaps purchasing my album on Bandcamp or downloading it wherever you choose to listen to your music. And of course, word of mouth. All of y'all being helpers and telling others what we have going on here means a lot. And hey, if there's anything or anyone you might want to hear on this podcast, let me know. So, thank you from the bottom of my heart. After a year like 2020, I have no idea what 2021 has in store, but I look forward to tackling it all with you. One positive thing that has come out of 2020 for me is that I've had numerous opportunities to catch up with old friends. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasure to sit down with Aidan Burkhard, an old friend from my neighborhood. Back in the day, I knew Aidan from playing football and basketball at each other's houses, amongst other games and neighborhood adventures. Plus, he was one of the main people who convinced me to join the lacrosse team in high school. We first met when we were in middle school, and I was still going to St. Peter's, not making it over to the public schools yet. He was one grade ahead of me. During the time leading up to me entering public high school, a lot of people would joke with and poke fun at me saying that I would never make it in high school. They called me a sheltered Catholic schoolboy who was too naive and way too much of an optimist. I was going to be eaten alive, they said. This all was very discouraging, as you can imagine. But I remember one day, hanging out at the park, Aidan randomly turned to me and said, "You know, Connor, you're going to do just fine in high school." That caught me by surprise. I asked why. I reiterated many of the things that others would say to me, and he responded, "It's for those reasons that you'll make it. You're a genuine person, and people will recognize that." I've never forgotten that exchange. And I'm not sure if I ever told Aidan how much what he said meant to me. So, Aidan, whenever you listen back to this podcast, thank you. Currently, Aidan is a marketer and hosts his own podcast, the Planet Creative Podcast. I'm really excited for all the things that he has going on, and it's great to see someone I grew up with doing so well.
Thank you. I'm super happy to be here. And like you said, it's always great to, kind of reconnect. It's not like we haven't been in contact. I get your holiday messages every holiday. I appreciate those. It's kind of a spotlight of every holiday. There's been a few holidays where I don't know if it doesn't go through or something, but I'm like, man, I didn't get one today. What where's Connor at? So I do always look forward to those. Those are always great to hear. Those are always great to get.
Did you get this past one?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay, good.
Like I said, sometimes I'm bad. I'm really bad about my phone. Even to my own parents, I'm so bad about answering stuff. It's like you saw it when we were trying to connect with this podcast. I'm really bad about answering my phone because I do so much on social media and on my phone all day when it comes to work that, like, when I'm away from my phone, like, sometimes I'll see a message, I'm hanging out with friends, hanging out with my girlfriend. I see a message. I'm like, oh, I'll get back to that. And then I just completely forget. So anybody out there, including you, Connor, if you texted me and I didn't answer, I'm sorry. That there's nothing personal behind it.
I totally get that. I really do get that mindset because, I'm working on the computer. I'm promoting, I'm marketing, I'm doing whatever for myself and whatever projects I'm working on. Sometimes I'll see the message come through, get so busy and totally forget about it. It's all good though. And I feel bad that you didn't get some of the prior messages last year. Last year, I will admit, I was having tech issues. I think it was Christmas that I wasn't able to do it by text. So I sent a bunch over Snap and Facebook. Try to make up for it. I tried to do my best.
I'm not to check my Facebook every holiday now, too, just in case.
Just in case. But fortunately, the holiday text messages, I'm still trying to do them as best as I can, for sure.
No, it's awesome that you do that, though. It's awesome that you do that because I've never seen anybody do that before, and it definitely brings a smile to a few people's faces, including myself every holiday. So those are always awesome to get.
Oh, that's greatly appreciated, man. Well, it's just my way of doing Christmas cards, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just instead of having to figure out everybody's address, but it's fun to do. And it keeps, there are people that I don't get to talk to during the year a lot of times, but it brings us together, have a conversation, reconnect as we're doing right now. You know what? This pandemic, as far away as we've all been from each other, it has given us a chance to reconnect with people on a whole new level, such as Zoom and things along those lines. Would you say that's something that you've done during this pandemic at all?
Oh, yeah, I've definitely used Zoom. So I graduated in December last year. I was supposed to walk in the spring with everybody else who graduated. On my graduation day, obviously due to COVID, nothing happened. On the day I was supposed to graduate, my girlfriend actually surprised me with a Zoom for, it had all my family members and stuff. So that was definitely cool to have because, you didn't get that in-person graduation, but I still got something out of it. So it was cool. And I mean, also with clients and stuff, even us right now with the podcast, it's definitely opened up a lot of avenues that I think people didn't realize were there. And I think a lot of these avenues are going to even apply after the pandemic when you can still be in person. I think people are going to realize, instead of having to take a flight to connect with this person or something like that, I can just Zoom them or we can FaceTime or I'm pretty sure even WhatsApp has everything. Everybody has some type of video chat now, whether it's Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, like I said, and it's definitely something cool to see implemented because even schools all online now, you see that happening. So it's cool. It's cool to see because you still get that in-person connection or still get to see somebody's face without actually having to leave your house, which I think some people love. They don't have to leave their house and they can still get that human connection. All these platforms really stepping up and giving people stuff, or even Zoom on every holiday that's happened since the pandemic. They're like, we're going to wipe our fees. Everybody gets to, hang out on Zoom if they need to for as long as they want. So it's cool. I mean, I even see people, I use TikTok and all those social medias. I even see people on there, like they have like Zoom movie nights with all their friends and stuff now. So it's like cool to see all these little ways implemented into our daily lives.
As I mentioned before, Aidan is now the host and producer of his podcast, the Planet Creative Podcast, where he brings on creators of all walks of life and try to highlight them to show off their stories and highlight the little guy, anybody who is still up and coming trying to make it. At the time of this interview, he was only a couple episodes in, but he's definitely come a long way since then, and the podcast seems to be doing really well, and I recommend it. So after you listen to this, go check out Planet Creative Podcast. I'll let him talk about the process about it right now.
Before we even get into that, what made me start the podcast, I feel like I've always been a creative person. I mean, no matter what it was, even when we were little kids, even just imagination. I mean, I'm sure you can remember we had those dragon books and we would ride around our neighborhood like hunting dragons as if we would see a dragon flying in the sky above us in the woods by our houses. Like
I remember all the wooden swords and the Nerf
I've always
guns
been, everything. I've always been an imaginative kid. Consider myself somewhat of a creative, even if it's not cut and dry dictionary definition of creative. I can't draw, I can't design clothes as much as I've tried. All those things. So I was really looking for a way of like, how can I show my creativeness and other people their creative assets? Like, how can I show that and kind of build off one another without it having to be, graphic design or selling something? And how can it be used as a platform to give other people a platform to reach different channels and avenues that they may not have reached ever since they've started? I've never done any audio. I've never done anything from a video. So I've had a podcast idea of doing a podcast for like 3 years now. Since I was in college, I've been like, oh, I want to do a podcast, but I never took that jump into it. And then during this pandemic, obviously having a lot of downtime that I wouldn't normally have, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for this podcast, but I want it to be something that's going to bring value to other people, because obviously anytime you have a product, it needs to be something that brings value, whether it's entertainment for the listeners or users of the product, or whether it brings value for, the people that are collaborating on the project with you. There needs to be some type of value. And I started hitting up kids we went to high school with who are creatives, who are in the fashion industry. The main person I talked to through this whole project and process was actually Isaiah Cotton. We went to high school with him. He played basketball, and now he's designing his own clothing. I just reached out to him and a few other people, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking of starting a podcast for creatives, but I want it to be for smaller creatives, the creatives who haven't quote unquote made it yet. Because anytime you see a podcast for creatives, it's always about the successful tech entrepreneur who sold his company for hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars. But you never hear about those creatives who are like still trying to make it, who are still trying to get their brand and their image out there and still kind of trying to navigate and find the way. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I bought all the equipment. Like I said, I was staying in touch with all these people. They actually helped me with my logo design and everything. Every time I got the logo in from the graphic designer, I'd send it out to these people. I'd be like, what do you guys think? Yeah, it just kind of came together, and I've gotten a lot of love on it. Both episodes so far, between YouTube and streaming, I've gotten over 100 views, which I couldn't have even imagined for my first episodes. The first few, I was saying to everybody, if I get 25 views on these first few episodes, I'll be over the moon about it. Yeah, it was just kind of during, this pandemic and tough times, how can we get through it together? How can we use our time in a productive way? And how can we build off one another? So it's really for creatives, but not creatives in your traditional sense. It's for your fashion designers, your artists, your musicians, the people that everyone deems creatives, but it's also for your business owners. It's for your bodybuilders, athletic trainers, because everything, if you really look at it, everything in life can be viewed through a creative lens. Everything in life has some form of creativity, even if you're an engineer or a scientist. Like, I look at scientists, if you're a chemist, if you're mixing all that stuff, that's creative to me. If you're coming up with giving medicines, that's creative. This episode that's going to come out this Friday, we have somebody on who makes beer, so it's all these different things that aren't necessarily your traditional creatives, but they're still creatives nonetheless. And obviously, like I said, we're going to have our designers on and all artists, all that. But it's for the people who haven't, made it yet, because like I said before, all the podcasts you see now about creatives, it's about somebody who's already sitting on that beach or that yacht, living their dreams out because they've already sold their company. But there's nothing that's being used as a platform to build other creatives up or push other creatives up, or at least not that you see in the mainstream. And that's the goal for this podcast, is eventually to get it mainstream enough that, we got people from all over listening, all over the country, all over the world. And hopefully, I can have somebody like Isaiah Cotton on and Tim talking about his clothing and his brand. And, I have enough reach that somebody in Germany or Japan hears about it. And next thing you know, he's shipping clothes out to different countries. That's the ultimate goal here, is to not even boost myself up. I don't care if I get any type of following or fame on my personal account off of this podcast. I want it for other people. That's actually one of the reasons I got into marketing, was because it's a way of helping people achieve success. You're helping them show off their business and showcase their business so they can make more money and become more successful. So, the main goal of it is helping out creatives. We can all grow together, even if we're in the same industry. Why don't we collab? Why don't, maybe I'll have a musician on who was like, yo, that designer you had on was dope. I need some merch. Would he make merch for me? Like, that's the whole point of this, is establishing connections and showcasing these people's stories, because I think out of everybody in this world, creatives are definitely the most interesting. It takes a special type of person to be able to, one, take the risk of trying to showcase their work, and two, to just think of things that other people haven't thought of yet. Something I've struggled with, especially recently, is like creative blocks, in a sense. And I think through this podcast, people coming on and telling their stories, it's definitely motivating to hear. My buddy who was on the other day talking about brewing beer, we were talking about how, he went to a college in the city for marketing of one of the top business schools in the country. And he was doing an assignment and was like, I hate this. I can't do this for the rest of my life, and decided to brew beer. And then, his friends were like, well, maybe you should just get a job in the corporate world. His parents were like, well, maybe you should get a real job and stop brewing beer because it's not going to last, and all this. And that's something I've dealt with from going to different schools. I've been to 3 different colleges before I got a degree. And even my parents still, mostly, my mom, she supports me no matter what, but she's still always like, when are you going to get a real job? Or maybe you should just get a real job until this or that, until you can get more clients. But it's motivating to hear at the same time that other people are going through these things, that even if you don't necessarily know that person, that you're not alone in this journey, and that if one person can do it, why can't you? If one person can get over that hump, and people being like, what are you doing? Why can't I get through it? Or why can't you get through it? Or why can't the next guy get through it? So it's also motivating to hear, with the podcast, if the opportunity presents itself to have a bigger name person on, I'll of course take that opportunity to have the big name person on, but I don't want people to view it as me selling out, because my goal with eventually getting a few big name people on is to build my brand and platform. So that way, the next creative that comes on that isn't a big name, now they have the following through me and through this other person of that big name person.
Amen.
So
Amen.
That's definitely something I want to say, is that if you ever see a big name person on my podcast, don't think I'm selling out, because that's to benefit everybody else who's going to come on in the future. That's a quote unquote smaller person.
Supporting each other and supporting the little guy go hand in hand, and should be a mindset that is adopted by any creator out there whatsoever, of whatever you do. Just being there and to support each other in each other's goals will only bolster each other up in the long run. There's something about hearing other people's stories that help inspire you. They may not be doing the exact same thing that you want to be doing, but just hearing that they are doing what they love makes us want to do what we love. And I'm glad that Aidan has the chance to highlight those stories like we're doing here on Walsh Wednesday.
Yeah, I think another big goal of this podcast is to really showcase the story of the people that are on too, because nowadays social media has just become a breeding ground for hate and for trolls. And it's kind of like anytime you see somebody doing something that you wish you could do, most people, including myself in some cases, get a little bit of jealousy and are kind of like, oh, screw this guy. Who does he think he is? And I think that's a big stigma around creatives nowadays is people see them and they're like, oh, this person's bragging on social media that they're trying to start their own brand. Like, who does this person think they are? Like, they're never going to make it. And I think another goal of this podcast is for these people to come on and tell their story so you can see, like, they're a person just like you and I. They're just trying to, they're taking that risk to do something. And like I said, there's a lot of hate on social media today. And it's because you don't see the real person a lot of times through social media. Nobody shows their bad days on social media. No one. So I think that generates a lot of hate of like, oh, this person's trying to be someone they're not, which is another goal of this podcast is to show people that this person, even though they're trying to start their own brand, is just another person. They're just like you and I. No matter what, you can find a common ground with them. So I think that's another really, really important goal.
That's something that I've definitely thought about, probably subconsciously, but I probably never really brought to the forefront. Yeah, social media is so different these days. And another thing that I found with my social media, when I'm just like scrolling through feeds on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, I don't even see my friend stuff anymore. Like I feel like it's all ad content or whatever. And in that case, somebody like myself, somebody like you, somebody like anybody that we're having on our shows, how hard is that to like break through? Even if we are trying to be personable, how can we break through all that?
In my opinion, Facebook is, I don't want to say it's dead yet. You can still grow a brand and you still can get organic reach on Facebook. But nowadays, if you post something on Facebook and it's a personal post or you're a business page and you post something, I think the number is about 1% of your friends and or followers and likes are going to actually see your post unless you're getting a good response from it. So organic reach on Facebook is almost dead. Instagram, you still got that organic reach. Now with the introduction of Reels, everybody who's listening, Instagram introduced Reels to compete with TikTok. It's great. I've been using it for my podcast. I have 120 something followers on my podcast page, but all of these Reels that I've posted have gotten over 1,000 views. So if you're not using Reels on Instagram, use Reels because when you post it, it shows up on your feed and it also shows up in the Explore page or the Reels page for anybody to see, whether they're following you or not. So definitely take advantage of Reels. Instagram now, it's like every second or third story is an ad. Every second or third post is an ad to break through the noise for sure. But at the end of the day, content is always going to win. Good content is always going to win. There's a lot of people going, why isn't my content breaking through? Why isn't my content being seen by a lot of people? It's great content. It's great content. Not to sound mean or anything like that, but if your content isn't breaking through, try some new things. You're never going to fail trying new things, especially if your content's already not getting a lot of love. If you're getting a lot of love on your content, then don't change up because you're doing something right. But if you're not and you think it's great content, to you it may be great, but to other people it may not be. It's definitely hard to break through the noise for sure on all social media right now. One of the only places that's really huge for organic growth right now is LinkedIn, which, is very businessy. It's not a casual social media like any other. So not everybody's going to benefit from that. And TikTok. TikTok is huge. And the thing about TikTok is you could post 50 TikToks a day and you're not going to lose followers because everybody uses the For You page, which is just anybody and everybody posting. So if you're not on TikTok, no matter how you feel about or what you think about China spying on you, because that's a big thing with TikTok. No matter what you think about that, if you're a business owner, you utilize TikTok, utilize Instagram Reels. And if you have the money, boost posts and run ad campaigns because obviously, as you see, ads are huge nowadays. So if you have the money to run that ad campaign, you're never going to lose anything but a couple bucks from running an ad campaign. And your return on investment could be huge on that. And the other thing about social media is don't be scared to post. Just post. Don't be scared. What is this person going to think of me? What is that person going to think of me if I post that? And I can say from experience of wanting to do a podcast for 3 years now and not starting it until about a month ago, just post it because you never know. I've gotten a great reaction so far. Two episodes in, I have over 100 views between YouTube and streaming services, and I had never imagined that to happen. I thought I was going to be at 50 followers for a while. I thought I was going to be at 25 views for the first 10 episodes. So don't be scared to just go for it. And at the end of the day, good content is always going to win out, and utilize every platform you can, because not everybody's going to be on every platform. So you may reach someone on TikTok that doesn't use Facebook or Instagram. You may reach someone on Twitter that doesn't use Instagram. You may reach someone on Instagram who doesn't use Twitter. So don't be scared. Good content will always win in the end. And don't be afraid to post new things and try new things out on your social media if nothing else is working, to see if it will work. Because at the end of the day, you post enough content, you're going to find something that works and then just build off of that thing that worked and mimic that thing that worked. You're going to find the people that really care about you and your vision. And that's something that I've noticed with just starting this podcast. There is and I'm not going to name any names. I'm not going to try to call anyone out here, but there's people who don't follow my podcast page that watch every story I post, that are looking at everything. And, I've gotten, and they haven't followed me. So clearly there's like something there that's like, where I'm in my own head, I'm like, why aren't they following me? What's going on? But at the end of the day, like, you see who your real friends are by the support they're giving you. And I think that's a big thing. I had people follow me and have been liking every post and listening to the podcast and messaging me that I didn't expect to. And then I have other people who I thought were close to me. They won't follow me. They won't share anything, but they're stalking my page, which is you're always going to have haters. You're always going to have haters, and you're always going to have those people who are going to watch your every move but not support you. So it shows you who really matters and who really cares about you and your friend group. But it also shows you that if you have these strangers supporting you, but you have people who you thought who were your friends not supporting you, that you're doing something right. Yeah. Something's going right if a stranger's supporting you over somebody you thought was your friend. So, just don't give up. Don't mind the haters. Don't mind the stalkers. Just keep doing you, because at the end of the day, being your realest self is what people want to see. Nobody wants to see somebody being fake. That's why, a lot of skits that people used to do on Instagram have died out. People are getting called out for doing skits on YouTube and TikTok because people don't want to see anything fake. They want to see you be real. They want to see you be who you are. So, like I said, don't care about the haters, the stalkers. Don't stress over, why is this person watching all my stories but not following me? Because that stuff doesn't matter. And I can tell you from experience, the people that matter are the people who are following you and supporting you. So just keep going after that.
It's the constant phrase, it's like, don't put all your energy into people that you're trying to make love you, and focus on the people who already do love and care. Take advantage of that.
Exactly. Because those are the people that matter. Those are the people who are going to tell their friends about you. Those are the people who are going to share your content. Those are the people who are going to like, comment, subscribe, whatever they got to do. Ring the bell on YouTube. Those are the people that matter. And, if everybody paid attention to their haters and everybody paid attention to the people putting them down and leaving mean comments, we wouldn't have Elon Musk's. We wouldn't have Bill Gates. We wouldn't have Steve Jobs. We wouldn't have some of the presidents we've had. We wouldn't have had some of the athletes we've had,
Yeah.
And I think that's something important, is that no matter what, you're always going to have haters. And the more haters you have, the higher chance that you're doing something right. Because people hate because they're either jealous or they have some type of animosity, probably about themselves more so than you. If you've never done anything to screw up, if you've never had a Logan Paul level scandal and everybody's still hating on you, you're clearly doing something right, because you're making those people feel some type of way about you that comes from their insecurities or whatever. So you're doing something right.
Besides the podcast, Aidan also has a startup marketing company that he has been focusing on this past year, and it's been really doing well for him. Sure, 2020 threw a monkey wrench into his initial plans. However, he's still making the most of his time and all of his efforts.
I actually started doing that about 2 years ago with, it started with just doing web design, website. for somebody in the Poughkeepsie area. And then out in Danbury, I got a wedding venue as a client. And then from there, it kind of evolved into a catering company as a client that worked at this wedding venue a lot. That was just kind of brought up through connections and word of mouth. And then, everybody was saying, they liked my work and all this stuff. And I was like, I've always wanted to work for myself. I know myself personally. I've had multiple internships. I don't like being stuck in an office. I don't like having somebody tell me what to do. And so I was just kind of like, why don't I just see where this takes me? So I graduated college. I told my parents, look, I'm going to try to start my own marketing brand or marketing company. And so it's based in Connecticut, right in Danbury, Connecticut. It's all small businesses in the area. And what started out as 2 clients last December has now grown into 6 clients monthly, about, depending on the month, about 10 clients every month with just like one-time work for people.
That's great.
And it consists of social media, ads, Google ads, search engine optimization, web design, even down to resetting passwords for people who just don't know how to do that. I kind of do it all. I think it's definitely a blessing in a sense because I graduated in December. So if I had gotten a marketing job, by the time I had gotten that job, it probably would have been towards the end of January. Then COVID would have hit and I would have been one of the most recent hires, which means I probably would have gotten laid off. Then I wouldn't have had these clients. Not to say COVID didn't affect me because I had 4 or 5 monthly clients with pretty big contracts that I was discussing a couple months. I was discussing with them for a couple months and COVID hit. And unfortunately, I didn't get those clients, which, was hard to deal with because at that point, I would have been making around what the starting salary for a normal marketing job is. So that would have been very nice to do in my first year. Obviously, right now I'm at less than probably what I would have made in an office as my first job, but I can say that I'm probably happier than I would be working 8 hours in an office. And I know that because it's all on me, that I can get these clients. I'm cold calling people every day. There's businesses I go into that while I'm in the business, I'll look at their website, I'll look at their social media, and then I'll talk to them behind the counter. Hey, let me redo your website for you. So, it's definitely a grind. It's definitely a slow grind, but I'm happier than I would be with any amount of money above what I'm doing because I just, I get to spend more time with my dogs, more time with my girlfriend that I wouldn't necessarily have if I was in that traditional 9-to-5 job. And on top of that, I'm making a little bit below what a starting salary marketing position is, but at that point, like what's an extra $5,000 a year if I get to make my own hours, if I get to, wake up one day and be like, I don't really want to work today, set up the social media posts, check my emails and have no emails, have no deadlines. I can just chill for the day. It's definitely nice. And the other thing is I'm working with all small businesses. And through the pandemic, it's definitely been nice to introduce new technology, introduce new business plans, marketing initiatives that have been successful for them that, it makes me feel good. Like I said earlier, to be able to help other people. And that's one of the reasons I got into marketing was because it's just, I'm getting to help people through my work. And it just feels good. It feels good that some of these businesses have been making sales through technology that they were opposed to. And then I talked them into that technology and now they're making sales because of it. They're getting more Google reviews because of it, which boosts their SEO online. So more people find them on Google. I'm happy with what I do and I think it's important for people to realize that even if you're doing something you're passionate about, you may not be making the money you want right away, but in the long run, that passion is going to drive you to make that money. And, you're going to have more time for yourself and to do the things you love. So I think it's really important to follow your passion and not to say that you don't have to work hard. I don't want people to take me saying I can wake up one day and be like, I don't feel like working today. I don't want people to take that as like, I don't work hard. There were nights where I was up till 4 a.m. There were days where I got 3-4 hours of sleep because I couldn't stop thinking about something. So I just got out of bed and was working on it. There were days where, I couldn't eat dinner with my girlfriend when I wanted or couldn't do something I wanted because I had my own business and I couldn't just put that off. And I work pretty much 7 days a week. Even if it's only 3-4 hours a day, I'm doing work 7 days a week. So at the end of the day, it all adds up, and it's pretty much the same hours as a 9 to 5, if not more. So there's definitely more work involved. There's more hustle involved. I think it's important for people to know that, like, just take the risk. I mean, had COVID not happened, I would be doing very well for myself. Let's just put it that way. As somebody who was in their first year of business, but COVID happened. So you just got to take it on the chin, keep moving. I got the clients that I have now, which I built stronger relationships with through COVID. Hey, maybe if I took those 4 or 5 other high ticket clients on, and then COVID happened, maybe some of my smaller clients wouldn't have been as happy with me because I wouldn't have been able to put as much effort into them during COVID. So, it's also always important to look at things as the glass is half full, because like I just said, if I took on those 4 or 5 clients and I was making more money and doing well for myself, maybe I would have lost some of those smaller clients. Maybe I wouldn't have had the relationship that I have with them now. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten to do some of the things with them that I was able to do, that I had a lot of fun doing. It's just do what you're passionate about. I know that was a rant, but do what you're passionate about, because at the end of the day, money is not going to make you happy. Money may solve your problems. Money may bring you short-term happiness, but it's not everything, because if you find your passion, I can guarantee you in most cases, you'll be making enough money to live and you'll be happy. And if not, in some cases, that passion is going to drive you to make more money than you would have made in a 9 to 5. Yeah, it's really important to stay positive and do things you're passionate about. So because I'm just, it's just me right now, hopefully this grows and can be more than that. Because it's just me right now, it's just Aidan Burkhard marketing, due to the last year being full of COVID stuff and having to put a lot of time into my clients. I don't have any website or social media yet for my actual business. I do for the podcast, the business. I know for some people, they're going to be like, what is this kid talking about? He doesn't have a social media or a website and he has a marketing company. Like, that makes no sense. A lot of my clients are word of mouth, and I'd rather be putting that time, my website's in development. I'd rather be putting that time into my clients in a lot of cases than myself as of right now. And, every minute I have to work on my own brand, I do. But yeah, right now I just haven't really seen the importance for that, because I've been focusing on my clients. And I think sometimes that's more important. Obviously, eventually the website's going to be live. Eventually, I'm going to have social media for myself. But right now, I'm really trying to focus on my clients, because COVID has been hard on a lot of them. Because, like I said, I had a catering company. I have 2 wedding venues. I have an appliance store. I have a interior designer. So these are all businesses that are affected by having to stay home, by not being able to have large gatherings, by not being able to have weddings, by not being able to cater events, by not being able to go in people's homes to redecorate. Yeah, it's to me, they were more important than my own brand at the moment. At the end of the day, if I get clients through word of mouth, that's awesome. And I think establishing those relationships to build those word of mouth clients is better than picking somebody up on social media, because a word of mouth client is the cheapest form of marketing, because I didn't have to pay for it. And it's also the strongest connection, because somebody normally, if they're going to recommend you to somebody else, they have a strong relationship with that person already. So I think that's really important. My target's small businesses. So obviously social media is important when marketing a business. Website is probably the most important when marketing a business. But with these small local businesses, it really is more about that word of mouth and strong sense of community than it is about, oh, I saw your Facebook ad and I need somebody to post twice a week for me. To me, it's just been, my clients have been really my focus recently. So yeah, it's always client first. There's a lot of times where I'm like, what this client wants to do is not going to work. I'm going to find a way to make it work. Like I said, it's always the client first. And by establishing these relationships with the clients and connections through COVID, I'm hoping that, once COVID is over, the referrals that in place for me already will come through. So yeah, eventually website's going to come, all that's going to come, but it's just Aidan Burkhard marketing. Hopefully, when you Google it in a few weeks, the website will be up so you can find me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's been a grind, and I really want people to know that your business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's It's not 40-yard dash. It's not what you're looking for. If you got a 40-yard dash business, you're going to have 40-yard dash success. And that success is going to be over real quick. It's about if you can get a strong base of clients from the beginning and then slowly build up, that's more important. Because to me, my monthly clients are not more important, but my monthly clients are stronger clients to me than somebody who comes to me for that one-time thing that I may get through a Facebook ad. Because, I get a one-time website and they pay, $500 for the website, let's say, it's a one-time payment. But if I can establish that connection with the person and next thing you know, I have them for a lifetime, that's more important. Your lifetime customers, your lifetime followers are the people that you want because they're the people who are going to keep coming back. They're the people who are going to eventually want more and ask more of you. So yeah, it's important to establish a connection in business. Sometimes even more important than marketing yourself is establishing those connections because word of mouth marketing is always going to work out for you. Word of mouth marketing is always going to work in your favor. You could run a Facebook ad and get a few responses or a few leads that don't turn into a sale. Whereas 9 out of 10 times, if somebody refers you to another business or another person through word of mouth, that person's going to check you out and probably call you, and you're probably going to get some type of business out of them.
It's all about trust, man. It's that trust factor. The fact that word of mouth, it's somebody they know, as you said, they have that relationship with already. And because of that, they are more inclined to then trust you. Exactly. And your mentality with focusing on your clients while you're still managing to build your brand, that kind of goes in line with the saying, I don't know if you've heard it, but leaders eat last. Yep. It's always taking care of who you are working with, what you're working for, and those around you, and then you worry about yourself. And you know what? I think that will probably pay off for you in the long run. So kudos to you on that. So for anybody out there that is interested in learning more about your services or wants to just check out the Planet Creative podcast, where can they hit you up and check this stuff out?
So as I said, for my marketing company, I don't have any social medias up. So if you want any type of marketing services, feel free to message me on my personal Instagram, which is just Aidan with 2 N's. So AIDANN Burkhard, BURKHARD. Aidan with 1 N was taken, unfortunately, so I couldn't get that one. Yep, Aidan with 2 N's and then Burkhard, and you can just follow me or even send me a message. I'll see it. And then you can find us on Instagram with Planet Creative Podcast at Planet Creative Podcast. Pretty simple and straightforward. YouTube at Planet Creative Podcast and TikTok at Planet Creative Podcast. Our Twitter will be coming up soon. Yeah, and that's about it. And if you need marketing stuff, feel free to message me through Planet Creative Podcast too, because I'm always going to check those DMs as well. If you want to be on my show, feel free to message me on there as well. I'm always looking for people. I'm always looking for, driven people with an awesome story and people with awesome brands or ideas, and like I said, with the podcast, it's not just about your typical creatives. It can be anything that you deem creative. If you're doing something and in your mind it's creative, then feel free to come on the show.
Aidan, I really appreciate you coming on to Walsh Wednesday, sitting down, talking about your stuff. You have no idea how good it is and feels to see how well that you're doing. As I said, we grew up together. We were in the same neighborhood together. We chased imaginary dragons together. I am so happy to see all the good stuff that you're doing. And I wish you nothing but success moving forward, dude. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me on. And I definitely think that you deserve some praise and respect yourself, because you had the balls even in high school to stand up in a table in front of a lunchroom full of kids and standing up on a lunch table and singing. So you've always been at this. You've always been grinding at this stuff. So I'm happy to see you dropping your new album. Let's not forget to shout that out. Streaming everywhere, I believe he said.
Yes.
So check out his new album, because we love to see that. But I think, everything you're doing is great too. Making music, working, doing this podcast. You said, you're meeting with a friend later to go over some new ideas. So I think that's awesome to see and hear about too. And I hope once COVID's over, I hope you still got that basketball hoop in the front yard, and maybe we can get everyone back together, give Shanahan a plane ticket from Australia, and have all the boys back for one last basketball game.
Wouldn't that be something? Hey. Yes, I do still have that basketball hoop.
So we got to get something going once COVID's over and we can all be back together.
Definitely, man. I would absolutely love that. Again, Aidan, thanks so much for coming on. And everybody, check out the Planet Creative podcast. And if you need any marketing services by any means, Aidan's a good guy. I trust him. You should too. Go ahead with it. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode, guys. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you again for tuning in. And honestly, there's something magical and inspiring about reconnecting with somebody. It's really cool to see how well that he's doing, and I wish Aidan all the best, as I said earlier. Go check out the Planet Creative podcast. Wherever you're listening to Walsh Wednesday right now, you can probably find Planet Creative there as well. So do yourself a favor, check that out, and I think you'll really enjoy. If you enjoy this, I think you'll enjoy that as well. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for supporting, and thank you for being wonderful human beings that you are. As always, I'm Connor Walsh, and I'm glad we get to spend some time.